The gang leader is extremely homophobic, so I've always hidden my orientation well. After finally becoming his second in command, I found myself entangled with his only heir, Xie Pingchen. Due to an embarrassing failure, Xie Pingchen is now pinning me down on the bed, his large hands stroking the back of my neck, threatening me to do it again. Or he'll tell my dad. Eat clean. Or he'll tell my dad. After spending countless days and nights together, I was awkwardly caught by the leader, who was visiting his son. I looked at him and said, "I was just saying we're good brothers sharing feelings. Do you believe me?" The man underfoot had his hands bound behind him, his pale wrists straining against the rough ropes, leaving red marks. He knelt on the ground, legs bent, yet his back remained perfectly straight, looking exceptionally defiant. Just thinking about how this man was hindering my promotion made me furious. 3 days ago, I had finally managed to rise to the position of second in command of the gang. I should have been shining in front of the boss, being a good lackey, striving to become the top dog. Unexpectedly, my cousin got drunk and flooded the family group chat with dozens of 60-second voice messages, complaining about being bullied at school. This pushed my mom into action. She had always wanted a daughter, and since the wish didn't come true, she treated my cousin with more importance than her own son. That same night, ignoring the fact that I was asleep, she called me and ordered me to take revenge for my cousin. With my mother giving orders, I could only set aside what I was doing. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. And I pressed my foot down hard on the side of his shoulder. It wasn't until the white shirt was wrinkled and stained that I finally smiled in satisfaction. Wasting my time shining in front of the ball. He deserved it. The man kept his head down in silence, seemingly unaware of his current dangerous situation. I leaned down and slapped his face twice. "Hey, do you know who I am? The second in command of the giant gang leader. You dared to bully my sister. You've really kicked a steel plate." Upon hearing this, he inexplicably chuckled. He raised his face and locked eyes with me, the mockery evident in his gaze. The face before me was sharp-featured, with inky black eyes. The top button of his shirt was undone, allowing me to see his delicate Adam's apple and subtle muscle lines from my angle. My hand, suspended in midair. The intimidation I intended to voice was suddenly swallowed back. It was my fault for being lecherous, or being too devastatingly handsome. Suddenly, I felt a surge of lust. Yeah, keeping my facade as a strong heterosexual man. I leaned close to his ear and whispered softly, "How about you sell your charms and seduce me? If it works, I might just let you go." Before he could respond, a sharp voice cried out from behind, "Brother, what are you doing?" Turning around, I found my cousin looking at me in shock. From her angle, our actions did appear a bit intimate. I awkwardly withdrew my hand, stood up straight, and calmness isn't it because you were crying in the family group saying you were bullied that my mom forced me to take revenge for you? But you've got the wrong person. I was momentarily stunned. I got the wrong person? You was wearing a white shirt and looked like a playboy. She looked at me in exasperation and pointed in a direction. Following her finger, I saw a figure in a white shirt running away in panic, perhaps sensing our gaze. He didn't look back, disappearing in a flash like he was on fire. My cousin stomped her feet in frustration. "Are you stupid? And a handsome guy, how can they be the same?" She turned her head, casting a lewd glance at Xie Pingchen, then quickly returned with a starry-eyed expression beside. "If it's Xie Pingchen, it'd be willing to be bullied by him. Oh my God. Did you just say such shameless words so sweetly?" I couldn't help but twitch my mouth, momentarily speechless. She leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "Brother, he's the school bully. Pluh. I heard he's the son of the giant gang leader. Do you think there will be trouble for you after hitting him today?" Wait a second. Who did you say he's the son of? I felt like I had suddenly awakened to a foreign bloodline. How could I suddenly not understand what she meant in Chinese? Yeah, my cousin was completely unaware. She just blinked her innocent eyes and repeated, "The son of the giant gang leader." I unconsciously swallowed hard, my voice trembling slightly. Even my hand reaching out to grab the little brother next to me was shaking uncontrollably as I nervously asked. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Tian? How many gangs do we have in Jaya? Tian didn't notice anything strange about me. Instead, he sounded particularly proud, shouting, "Brother, Zhang, are you stupid? There's only our gang in Jiang. Yeah, it's just the one gang under my dad." Sinister voice came from behind, making me shiver unexpectedly. At that moment, I finally realized what that laughter meant earlier. I had been pretending to be cool right in front of the main character. I felt my legs go a bit weak again. Last time it was because of Xie Pingchen's handsome face, and this time it was pure fear. I forced a smile, barely managing to brush off my cousin and the two little brothers. Once the three of them walked away, I looked up and met a pair of eyes that seemed to be smiling mockingly. With a thud, I knelt down to admit my mistake. Xie Pingchen stepped forward, pinching my chin and leaning in closer. The distance between us suddenly shrinking. As he spoke, our lips were almost touching. "How should I seduce you? Like this? Is it okay?" It was clearly an incredibly tempting scene. Yet all I could think about was two big words: "I'm screwed." Everyone in the gang knows our boss is obsessed with his son. He often talks about how great his son is. If he finds out I'm not only gay but also flirted with his only heir, I could only imagine the consequences. Snapping back to reality, I slid down on my knees again, grabbing Xie Pingchen's thigh tightly, constantly confessing and begging to awaken even a hint of his conscience. "Young master, he'll be good. Please forgive me. The boss is so homophobic. Please don't let him know I'm gay. That would be such a headache." I buried my head down, and when I saw Xie Pingchen not reacting, I cried even more earnestly. One should never pretend to be cool. You think retribution has come, hasn't it? Xie Pingchen spoke in a casual tone. Of course I won't tell my dad, but I've been lacking someone to take care of me lately. His words trailed off, and I immediately understood. I hurriedly replied, "Don't worry, as long as the boss doesn't find out about this, I'll do whatever you ask me to from now on." Xie Pingchen had a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, and a flash of triumph crossed his eye, but I was lost in the fleeting joy of having retained my position as the second in command. After that day, Xie Pingchen exchanged contact information with me. I was originally relieved that the matter was resolved so easily, but I soon realized that Xie Pingchen was quite demanding. As long as there was any issue, he would text me. If I didn't reply within 3 seconds, I would receive a phone call from him. One moment, I was stepping on the troublemakers with my gang of little brothers, and the next, I heard a sharp ring. I want to fly forward. I'm waiting for love. The tense atmosphere was instantly shattered, and a little brother behind me cowled and helped but snicker, prompting me to shoot him a fierce glare. Outwardly fierce, inwardly crying, "What a shame. I will never like little bird legend again." I hurriedly pulled out my phone, initially planning to give the caller a piece of my mind. But when I saw the caller ID Xie Pingchen forgetted it. I cowed and even cursed him in this lifetime, let alone his ancestors for 18 generations. I answered the call, ingratiatingly saying, "Young master, please feel free to give your orders. Come to the apartment and bring me a book to school." I glanced at the still slightly defiant man on the ground and hesitated for a moment. "Young master, I'm currently handling something here." His voice turned icy as he coldly stated, "There's something, and I suddenly want to talk to my dad on my way." In the following days, my conversations with Xie Pingchen went like this: "Come pick me up. Young master needs something. Want to talk to dad? Come in. Join me for dinner." Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Something, Dad. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Late at night, Yingkin Ken called me to his house to fix a leaky pipe. When I pushed the door open, I saw him bare-chested, wearing only a towel around his waist. Water droplets from the fever glistened on his chest, sliding down his well-defined muscle. What a handsome scene of a man stepping out of the bath. It weren't for Xie Pingchen's father being homophobic, I would have thought he was intentionally trying to seduce me. With that thought in mind, I raised the wrench in my hand. My gaze firm and my voice strong. Young master, which pipe is leaking? Xie Pingchen didn't say anything as he strode closer to me. He took my hand and placed it on the knot of his towel. With just a gentle tug. He could be completely honest with me. He leaned close to my ear, his breath warm. Where do you think the leak is? I felt my ears get hot. Under his movement, the towel was already starting to slip. I wanted to look but didn't dare to, my eyes darting around in confusion. Just before the situation became uncontrollable, I quickly pulled my hand back. A light bulb moment flashing in my mind. I know. It must be that the bathroom pipe can't be shut off halfway through the shower, right? I'll go fix it for you right now. I couldn't help but feel proud of my quick thinking, completely unaware of the dark expression on Xie Pingchen's face that looked like it could drip ink. I hurried into the bathroom, only to return empty-handed and disappointed. Young master, isn't there a problem with your bathroom pipe? Xie Pingchen gritted his teeth. Right, as soon as you came, the pipe fixed itself. I was baffled but was shooed out the door by Xie Pingchen. The door slammed shut in front of me without mercy, and I faintly heard him curse. Idiots. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, you never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. Was he cursing me? I muttered to myself all the way back. Men's hearts are as hard to understand as the depths of the ocean. The next morning, I hadn't even had a chance to think about what happened yesterday when the boss called me over. Standing in the office, thinking I was about to be entrusted with an important task, I was filled with determination. Thought, is there anything you need me to do? The boss didn't reply, continuously sizing me up, mumbling something under his breath, but he spoke too softly for me to hear clearly. He snapped back to attention, his expression serious. There is indeed something I need you to help me with. I have a big business deal coming up, and I need you to be my son's bodyguard. The sudden turn left me a bit bewildered. Bodyguard? But I don't want to. As long as you keep my son safe, I can do business with peace of mind. Seeing his serious expression, despite the countless reasons I didn't want to, I could only obediently agree. All right, I'll go find Xiao Chen now. Got it. But when I arrived at the school, I found out that Xie Pingchen had actually skipped class. After finding out his location from his friend, I headed straight to the bar. His buddies glared at me with anger, forming small groups. Do you think Xie's plan will work? No idea. But I wish him good luck. As soon as I entered the bar, I spotted Xie Pingchen right away. He was slumped in a booth, surrounded by empty bottles. I was hit by a wave of alcohol and couldn't help but frown. Xie Pingchen, wake up! I kicked him with disdain, but he didn't react at all. Sneaking close to his ear, I shouted, your dad is here. No response. Seemed he was really drunk. I was pondering how to get Xie Pingchen home when my gaze lifted, and I couldn't look away. Xie Pingchen seemed to have a high tolerance for alcohol, peacefully sleeping there, and slightly flushed lips made him look just like a sleeping beauty. The timing was perfect, and such beauty had been so close for so long. It wouldn't be too much to touch a little, right? With that thought, I decided to go for it. I gently tugged at the hem of Xie Pingchen's shirt with my fingertips while my other hand quickly brushed against his toned ABS. Stealing a glance at him, he was still sound asleep. I smacked my lid, feeling unsatisfied. I boldly slipped both hands inside, my fingers tracing the contours of his muscle. I was lost in the moment, thoroughly enjoying myself. Suddenly, in that instant, my soul seemed to flee my body, leaving me as just a shell bracing for the storm. I stayed crouched for a long time, my shoulders aching, too scared to look up. After what felt like ages, I hesitantly raised my head. Xie Pingchen still had his eyes closed, as if that voice was merely a figment of my imagination. Xiang Yu Anon. Another call. Pingchen's lips moved slightly. I leaned down, trying to hear what he was saying. Unexpectedly, my hand slipped, and our lips touched. Perhaps it was the alcohol on his lips, but I started to feel a bit dizzy too. I didn't know how long we maintained that position until the gossiping voices of passers-by brought me back to reality. and I jumped back as if electrocuted. I couldn't help but feel a pang of regret for my earlier distraction. To avoid the awkwardness, I gathered a few little brothers to help get him home, while I made a hasty exit. When I sought out Xie Pingchen again, my restless heart had calmed down. After he woke up, he didn't ask me about the previous night, and I secretly felt relieved. But he didn't seem surprised by my arrival. Instead, he looked like he was ready to accept it. He still treated me coldly. I felt like he was sulking. But why was he sulking with me? I couldn't figure it out at all. However, being Xie Pingchen's bodyguard was quite easy. Aside from that night, his daily routine was ridiculously healthy eating classes, finishing school, eating, and sleeping. The only bad habit I noticed was that he sometimes came out of the shower without wearing a shirt. But aside from that, I couldn't find any fault. I counted down the days, eagerly anticipating the end of the boss's business deal so I could return to my original position sooner. Little did I expect, just as I was relaxing, something happened to Xie Pingchen. That morning, I overslept, and by the time I got up, Xie Pingchen had already gone to school. Remembering the task assigned by the boss, I quickly got dressed, grabbed a piece of toast, and rushed to the school. When I arrived, it was just the right time for classes to end. I could go directly to the teaching building where Xie Pingchen had classes and wait for him to finish school. With the bread in my mouth, I was dumbfounded at the sight of the crowd in front of me. Oh my god! Why are the guys from the sports academy fighting with Xie Pingchen? I heard that the girl he likes passed him a love letter a while ago, and that's what led to the fight. My pupils constricted as I overheard the gossiping crowd. Throwing the bread away, I struggled to push my way through the crowd. It was a chaotic fight involving 4 people, with Xie Pingchen facing 3 opponents. Xie Pingchen was usually fit from his workouts, so while it was challenging to take on 3, realizing that couldn't beat Xie Pingchen, the 3 exchanged glances. One of them quietly sneaked behind Xie Pingchen, and when I saw him rushing towards Xie Pingchen with a large rock, I didn't think twice and jumped in to shield him. The rock hit the back of my head, causing me to wince in pain, and touch my hand to find it covered in blood. Fainting at the sight of blood, my eyes rolled back, and I collapsed to the ground. Xie Pingchen heard the commotion and turned around, his fury rising when he saw me unconscious on the ground. He immediately knocked down the 2 guys and kicked the one who threw the rock. All of them were students. And, seeing the scene, they panicked and fled. When I opened my eyes again, the first thing I saw was a fuzzy head. My fingers curled slightly, and Xie Pingchen immediately looked up. His expression was filled with concern. "Zhang Anan, how are you? Is there anywhere you feel unwell?" I didn't have time to reply. My attention was drawn to the injuries on his face. The atmosphere was silent for 2 seconds before I shouted sharply in the hospital room. "What happened?" There was a bruise on Xie Pingchen's cheek, and a band-aid on his brow. Although it wasn't a serious injury, if his father found out, he'd go crazy. "Is it those 3 again? Just wait, I'm going to get revenge for you right now," I said, throwing off the blanket and trying to get out of bed. Xie Pingchen pressed me back down onto the bed. "I've already taught them a lesson. It's just a minor injury. It'll heal quickly." His tone grew heavier as he continued. "But you stupid? He was holding a rock, and you still dared to charge at him." My confidence faltered, and I muttered weakly, "Isn't it all for you?" To my surprise, Xie Pingchen's often at those words. He reached up to touch the side of my face, his voice gentle. "But I worry about you too." I instinctively recoiled under the covers, then poked my head out innocently, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." "What did you say?" I didn't know if Xie Pingchen had a sudden change of heart. In the following days, our roles completely reversed. Xie Pingchen took meticulous care of me. I discovered I had actually suffered a moderate concussion from that rock. Xie Pingchen even took the opportunity to tease me, saying, "In command of a gang, are this weak and can't take a hit." My competence was called into question, and in a fit of anger, I grabbed the pillow, covering my ear. I silently chanted, "Not listening, not listening." turtle reciting scriptures. Fortunately, my injuries weren't severe, and after I recovered, I received the boss order to return to my position. Taking advantage of Xie Pingchen's absence, I happily packed my belongings and prepared to leave. Seeing the boss again, I felt as if a day apart was like 3 autumns. Is there something important you need to do this time? Perhaps my enthusiasm had influenced him. The usually stern boss looked a bit more amiable. Just that I plan to have Shen go on a blind date. Blind date? That can't be. He's only 20. The boss chuckled. He's not a kid anymore. The sooner he settles down, the better. You help me see who would be suitable. Once you pick someone, let Xiao Chen know. That kid has always been rebellious. I need you to keep an eye on him and make sure he goes on that date. For some reason, I felt inexplicably gloomy. Distracted. I naturally missed the teasing glint in the boss' eyes as he watched me, holding the photo the boss had given me. I went to Xie Pingchen's house again. As soon as I finished relaying the boss message, Xie Pingchen shot me a cold glance. You want me to go on a blind date? I instinctively shrank my neck and cautiously added, the boss said you have to go. Otherwise, I won't complete my task before I could finish. Xie Pingchen once again tossed me out the door. After that unhappy encounter, he didn't message me for several days. I couldn't help but start thinking about Xie Pingchen finding why he was angry and whether he ended up going on that blind date lost in thought. A bored Nate behind me patted my shoulder, with a teasing smile. Zhangji, are you falling for someone? I raised my fist, pretending to hit him, but after a moment, I pulled my hand back and asked, I have a friend who was called to help fix a water pipe in the middle of the night and got hurt. That person took good care of him. But when my friend suggested going on a blind date, he got angry. What do you think that person means? Qiang's smile widened. He mockingly repeated, I have a friend Zhangji. You have so many friends. After he finished speaking, my retracted fist landed squarely on it. Qiang made a face and explained, Zhangji, you're so dense. Fixing a water pipe in the middle of the night, caring for him when he's injured, and then getting angry about a blind date? That's clearly not the point. I was still processing his words when my mouth retorted. You're the one who's dense. Qiang pointed to himself. I am a dense guy. Just then, my phone screen lit up, and Xie Pingchen's message popped up. I didn't have time to joke with him anymore. I grabbed the coat from the sofa and stood up. Seeing my actions, Qiang looked confused. Zhangji, where are you going? Without looking back, I threw back to words looking for spring. Once outside, I unlocked my phone to carefully read the message from Xie Pingchen. Earlier, I had instinctively jumped up when I saw his name and hadn't even noticed what he had sent. Now that I could see it clearly, I clenched my phone, my eyes blazing. I threw a few punches in the air in front of me, but it still didn't alleviate my inexplicable emotion. Xie Pingchen actually asked me to deliver him a few boxes of that stuff. What a scumbag. Only a dog would obediently follow his orders. 10 minutes later, I found myself standing at Xie Pingchen's door. Well, I actually didn't want to come. But you know the young master's requests are impossible to refuse. After taking several deep breaths, I raised my hand to enter the password. The first time I came to Xie Pingchen's house, he'd already given me the code. But since I couldn't remember it, he simply changed it to my birthday, entering the familiar digit. The door opened with a ding. I pushed the door open and froze in shock at the scene inside. Too stunned to move. Inside, the television screen was showing something inappropriate for children. If it were normal, it would be fine. But the main characters were two men. Xie Pingchen was lazily leaning back on the sofa. Upon seeing me, he didn't shy away at all and even smiled brightly at me. No way. No way. It couldn't possibly be what I was thinking. Right? Considering Xie Pingchen's identity and the scene before me, I felt like I was being turned into an intruder in my own right. While I guessed his little thoughts and felt a bit smug about it, I also realized that being alive was a much more wonderful thing than sleeping with a handsome man. Suddenly, I felt the bag I was holding getting a bit too hot in my hand. I threw the bag down and turned to run. I thought I was pretty fast. But unfortunately, after just a few steps, Xie Pingchen caught up to me with his long leg. Until now, I'd always been proud of my height of over 1.8 meters. Yet, at this moment in front of Xie Pingchen, I'd actually felt somewhat petite. He effortlessly hoisted me onto his shoulder, his firmly gripping my waist. I watched helplessly as the door closed behind me. Just then, my shirt was pulled up a little. Xie Pingchen took advantage of it, his hand unceremoniously probing in, his large hand pressed against my waist, sending a shiver down my spine. I was tossed onto the sofa, and before I could react, Xie Pingchen pushed his knee between my legs. Beautiful eyes locked onto mine. He leaned down, pressing his whole body against me, and I felt a weight on me. Realizing what it was, my cheeks flushed red, and I shouted. Xie Pingchen didn't refute me. He just laughed and replied, "Yeah, I'm a pervert." Realizing that he was serious, my heart raced with both panic and a hint of expectation, but I still clutched tightly onto my pants. "Xie Pingchen, I consider you a good brother." Without lifting his head, he easily pried my hands away. "Well, since we're good brothers, isn't it fine to help each other out?" Just as I was about to say something more, he silenced me with his mouth. My whimpers slowly turned into cries, and in my anger, I bit down on his shoulder. "Bastard. I'm the one on top." "Okay. They'll let you be on top and do it again. This long night was only just beginning." After all, Xie Pingchen said it would be a shame to waste so many boxes without using them. After a night of craziness, my back and waist ached. Looking at the hand wrapped around my waist, I grabbed it and bit down hard in frustration. Xie Pingchen inhaled sharply in pain, and without a word, pushed me down again. "Zhang Yahan, are you planning to murder your husband?" I smiled faintly and added two words. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." Before I could finish, Xie Pingchen covered my mouth once more. He was like a perpetual motion machine, showing no sign of knowing what rest was. He dragged me around his house. When we were about to go again, I was determined to refuse Xie Pingchen. His large hand stroked the back of my neck as he threatened, "Let me in, or you'll tell my dad." Mentioning Xie Dama the boss made me momentarily stunned, and once again, I was forcibly pushed inside. My curses turned into an unending stream of whimpers. Xie Pingchen seemed to have discovered my fatal weakness. Every time I showed signs of refusal, he would bring up his dad. For instance, "Let's go again. Or I'll tell my dad. Be cleaner. Or I'll tell my dad." My eyes were a bit red and swollen from crying, and I weakly accused him. "Xie Pingchen, are you a mama's boy, mentioning your dad all the time?" Xie Pingchen leaned in closer, kissing away the tears from the corner of my eyes and asked. When I was sober, I'd tried to subtly test our relationship with Xie Pingchen. I didn't know if he truly didn't understand or was just pretending. But he never gave me a clear answer. It would be a lie to say I was disappointed. When I woke up again, Xie Pingchen was already gone. I picked up my phone and saw it was already 8 p.m. I spat at the spot where Xie Pingchen had been lying. Gone after the fun. What a scumbag. Just as I was trying to push my sore body up, my phone lit up again. "Xiang Zhang, don't you think they make a good couple?" Then Xie Dama sent a photo. In the picture, Xie Pingchen was with a strange woman, who was incredibly beautiful. Just from the photo, her extraordinary aura was evident. The two of them were very close, both smiling brightly. The messages kept coming that kid finally found someone he liked. The young lady from the Shen family. "She's really great. He even told me he wants to settle down soon. You've been with me for so long. Have you found someone you like? He'll help you out." My heart felt like it was being tightly gripped, and I struggled to breathe. No way. Why should I be the one gasping for air? Xie Pingchen? That scumbag. I absolutely wouldn't allow him to hurt me and then go harm other girls. What a coincidence. The photos sent by the boss happened to show the name of the place. Following the name, I took a cab straight to the restaurant. When I got out, I saw Xie Pingchen and the young lady from the Shen family walking out, laughing together. Although it was just early autumn in Jiang, the night was still chilly. To make matters worse, a gust of evening wind blew by, causing me to shiver. I suddenly realized I had rushed out in just a thin short sleeve. When I looked up, I saw Xie Pingchen had already taken off his coat and handed it to Miss Shen, who received it with a smile. In the chilly weather, a surge of unnameable anger rose in my heart. Without caring about dignity, I rushed over and slapped Xie Pingchen across the face. After hitting him, I felt a bit regretful. After all, he was the boss' son. No. What does it matter that he's the boss' son? Humbags deserve to be hit. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. And in a swift motion, I slapped him again. After that, I turned to Miss Shen and said, "Miss Shen, Xie Pingchen is a scumbag. You must not believe his nonsense and agree to get engaged to him." Miss Shen looked a bit confused, seemingly not understanding what I was saying. I wanted to explain further, but Xie Pingchen hoisted me up. He said apologetically to her, "Miss Shen, you'll have someone follow up on this later. Right now, I have some family matters to deal with." Miss Shen smiled slightly, indicating that she didn't mind, but I was too preoccupied with being effortlessly picked up by Xie Pingchen again to note it. Unhappy, I struggled against him. He directly tossed me into the back seat of the car, then quickly got in and locked the doors. I was angry and silent, and Xie Pingchen also didn't say a word as he drove. I glared at his focused profile. When we arrived at Xie Pingchen's house, he got out first and opened the car door for me. "Get out." "You want me to get out, and I just will? Why am I so spineless in not getting out?" I stood my ground. Unexpectedly, Xie Pingchen responded to me and lifted me up onto his shoulder again. Just as I was about to struggle, he slapped my butt. Feeling the warmth on my rear, I froze instantly. "You warned me. I just slapped you earlier. Considering there were a lot of people, if you move again, it won't just be this." Realizing he was joking, I settled down. Seeing that I'd calmed down, Pingchen unconsciously smiled. Once inside, he placed me on the sofa and leaned over me. Our eyes met, and I noticed a deep affection in his gaze. I awkwardly looked away, only to be forcefully pulled back by him. "Give me an explanation." "What do you want me to explain?" Xie Pingchen found it amusing, biting down on his back teeth as he continued. "In public, you slander me as a scumbag. What's there?" Seeing him take this matter seriously, I punched his chest, my voice tinged with a sob. "Aren't you a scumbag? You slept with me and then went to court, Miss Shen." "Xie Pingchen, I never want to see you again." Xie Pingchen looked taken aback for a moment when he saw me crying. He wiped away my tears with his fingertips and softened his voice. "Who told you I went on a blind date?" "That was a business partner. My dad asked me to discuss some matters. Besides, Miss Shen has had a fiancé for a long time. If she hears you saying this, you won't be able to explain yourself." My sobs stopped abruptly. "Thank you." Xie Pingchen pulled out his phone and held it up in front of me. The screen displayed Miss Shen's moment, with the background image being a photo of her kissing another girl. "But the boss said you went on a blind date after hearing my word." Xie Pingchen dropped his phone, pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and quickly scanned through the chat history. His expression clearly displayed 3 words "are so dumb." Realizing that I had indeed wronged Xie Pingchen, and recalling the 2 slaps I'd given him, I couldn't help but feel guilty. Xie Pingchen had a proud and cold expression compensate me. Understanding his hint, I blushed and leaned closer to his face. The moment our lips touched, he immediately flipped the situation and wrapped me tightly in his embrace. The ambiguous atmosphere escalated, and just as we were about to take the next step, the door swung open. Noticing that he looked as if the screen would break from his tension, I later realized that I mistook the person I sought revenge on for my cousin's sake. He saw me expressing fear of Xilo de la Doma, and since I was acting scared, he simply went along with it. During that incident with the water pipe, he'd intentionally seduced me. At the bar, he hadn't been drunk at all. Even when he came out of the bathroom without a shirt, he'd already calculated the angle that would be most enticing. As for Xilo Dama, he wasn't homophobic at all. Xie Pingchen was also his adopted child. I thought he was homophobic because of an incident with that handsome uncle, who was Uncle John. Uncle John went to the office to find Xilo Dama and was kicked out. I even heard Xie Dama cursing angrily several times after he left, with lines like, "Perverted idiot. Shameless." I overheard others gossiping that this person was a well-known playboy in the gay scene when he was younger. After that, I became timid about hiding my own sexual orientation, fearing I would be the next person Xie Dama would berate. After hearing all this, I slapped him again on the day I was hospitalized. I thought, how could you fight off 3 people by yourself? How did you get pinned down by my 2 little brothers? Or you just pretending for me? Xie Pingchen laughed and tightened his grip on my hand. Yeah, I've been planning this for a long time. Can I finally have my wish? And his hand began to wander restlessly. I guessed, restraining his wandering hands. Wait, I have one more question. Why did the boss curse Uncle Jung like that? Xie Pingchen revealed an ambiguous smile, pulling my hand away and continuing deeper. Don't worry, you'll know soon enough. I was confused. From the sofa to the floor to the ceiling window and then to the bed, Xie Pingchen showed no sign of wanting to stop. I could no longer hold back the curses threatening to escape my lips. Xie Pingchen, perverted idiot.